Who is Nayib Bukele, the resolute peacemaker? While people may not have much information about El Salvador, they likely recognize the name and face of its current president. Nayib Armando Bukele Ortez, a 42-year-old former marketing executive, has captured the attention not only of Salvadorans, but of an entire region with his charisma. He became the youngest president in Latin America, showcasing his administration's successes through social media. Known for his casual attire, frequent use of TikTok and other social media platforms, and born in 1981, Bukele has been labeled the Millennial President. Despite provocative responses to critics, describing himself as both an instrument of God and the coolest dictator in the world, he has made a significant impact on Salvadoran politics. Bukele served as the mayor of Nuevo Cuscatlán from 2012 to 2015 and San Salvador from 2015 to 2018, initially under the Farabundo Martí National Liberation Front, FMLN, the former left-wing guerrilla group that governed the country for a decade. However, conflicts with the FMLN led to his expulsion, prompting him to establish his own party, Nuevas Ideas, in 2018, which eventually led to his presidency. As the first president since the end of the Civil War not affiliated with the two main parties, ARENA or FMLN, that had governed since 1989, Bukele, a young and bold politician, gained widespread support in Latin America and worldwide. His robust campaign against the notorious gangs known as Las Maras, which terrorized the country with extortion and heinous crimes, contributed to his popularity. On March 27, 2022, following the gang's killing of 87 Salvadorans in 3 days, President Nayib Bukele called for an emergency decree known as the State of Exception, allowing the Salvadoran state to arrest over 66,000 individuals associated with illicit groups. However, the Legislative Assembly hesitated to approve the president's proposal due to its $109 million budget for law enforcement. Bukele, escorted by security forces, personally demanded urgent action, using social media and delivering an aggressive speech outside the Congress building. This marked a turning point, leading to Bukele's strong-handed approach, deploying the full power of the state to capture gang members across the country. While his tough-on-crime policies faced criticism from human rights advocates and defenders of democracy, they contributed to a significant reduction in crime and violence. Bukele defended his model, even at the United Nations, where he took a selfie, criticized the institution's limited adaptability, and gained both supporters and detractors. Despite allegations of human rights violations and arbitrary detentions, his measures proved effective, resulting in high approval ratings, surpassing local politicians across the continent. In Latin America, the issue of crime has become a major concern, with escalating violence and high homicide rates. Bukele's aggressive anti-gang strategies have attracted attention as a potential solution to the region's security challenges. While facing criticism for alleged human rights abuses, Bukele's rise in popularity is linked to his success in reducing crime in El Salvador. The country, once one of the most violent in the world, now garners international headlines for hosting Miss Universe, the World Surfing Games 2023, and welcoming soccer star Lionel Messi and his team to the Cuscatlán Stadium. While the Constitution of El Salvador expressly prohibits presidential re-election, in the midterm elections, the Nuevas Ideas party achieved such a triumph that it allowed them to gain more representation in Congress and thus obtain a supermajority. With this power, the ruling party replaced the justices of the Constitutional Chamber, who later reinterpreted the Constitution to enable presidential re-election. To focus on the electoral campaign, the president took a 6-month leave. But the reality is that his high levels of popularity and support for his achievements during his first term guarantee the majority of Salvadorans' backing. His substantial advantage over competitors has spared him from presenting any formal program for his second term or announcing the end date of the state of exception, which has been in effect for nearly 2 years. Bukele expressed in a radio interview, "We are a new El Salvador with a new history that we began writing in 2019. The entire country is recognized by people from all nations. They acknowledge our potential." His leadership is so strong and his governing style so personalized that he presented the challenge of grooming a legitimate successor in the coming years to avoid permanently modifying the constitution, thus jeopardizing the foundations of the country's democratic system. The most significant change during Bukele's tenure has undoubtedly been the reduction in homicides in what was once one of the world's most violent countries. According to government data, 2023 was the safest year in the country's history, with an average of 0.4 homicides per day. However, organizations like the University Observatory of Human Rights at the Central American University of El Salvador have criticized government figures, arguing that there is uncertainty about whether they include deaths of alleged gang members in clashes with the police or those that occurred in state custody. Regardless, the reality is that the majority of Salvadorans claim to live more peacefully, free from extortion, and able to travel through areas that were previously controlled by the gangs that terrorized the country for decades. According to a study published in January by the Francisco Gavidia University, 8 out of 10 believe that El Salvador is safer or report not perceiving a climate of fear. The achievement of security came at a high cost for the country, as the main action within this strategy was the implementation of the state of exception, initiated in March 2022, which has been extended 11 consecutive times. This involves nothing less than the suspension of constitutional guarantees for the population, leading to numerous complaints of arbitrary detentions without a court order and deaths in state custody. To date, over 75,000 people have been detained for alleged gang ties, with more than 7,000 subsequently released, according to official government figures. El Salvador became the country with the highest incarceration rate globally, necessitating the construction of a penitentiary unit that symbolizes Bukele's administration. It is undeniable that in Bukele's first term, he has been remarkably effective in reducing gang-related homicides, but this has come at the cost of undermining the pillars of democracy, suspending the rights of the entire population, and concentrating power in his figure. Providing security in exchange for the restriction of individual rights seems to be a social pact that, while accepted by El Salvador, may not last much longer. This is where the new challenges for this leader in his second presidential term begin. The world is aware that El Salvador is now a safe country, with the airport receiving a flow of 4.5 million passengers, a 32% increase in tourists compared to 2022, making it the fourth country globally with the highest growth in international tourist arrivals, 35%, compared to 2019, according to the World Tourism Organization. Furthermore, Bukele's economic strategy during his term was marked by the decision to make El Salvador the world's first country to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender. Given the scarcity of public information on this topic, analyzing the outcome of his gamble is as difficult as the volatility of the cryptocurrency's value. What is certain is that its use on the streets is entirely anecdotal. According to a study from the University Institute of Public Opinion of the Central American University released in January 2024, 85% of Salvadorans admitted to not using Bitcoin at all in 2023. In his strategy to project to the world, the president has focused on the construction of large mega-projects financed by China, such as the National Library, an impressive 7-story, 24,000 square meter glass structure that operates 24/7 since its inauguration in November. He has also requested credits for major infrastructure projects, investing in the construction of roads, hospitals, bridges, and even the 3 de Febrero hydroelectric power plant, which will provide savings and independence, but also a significant external debt that has increased by $10 billion in the last 3 years. Now that the issue of violence has been resolved, the economy will be one of the major challenges for the second government, since the cost of the basic basket increased by an average of almost $54 between 2019 and October 2023, while the minimum wage remains at $365. The country and its economy have a long way to go, starting with education, to develop a productive matrix that allows for higher qualifications and employability to break free from dependence on remittances from expatriate Salvadorans. Additionally, there is a need to strengthen the development of internal trade capable of generating employment and lifting the population out of poverty. The World Bank's forecast for El Salvador pointed to an economic growth of 2.8%, but the International Monetary Fund placed it at 2.2%, the lowest in all of Central America. If the country does not grow and develop its workforce's capacity, it will not be able to attract foreign direct investment. In 2 or 3 years, it has very strong financial commitments, and there is no formal plan expressed by the government to meet those payments. It is believed that in this second term, the re-elected president will focus on economic recovery by promoting public works, with the advancement of megaprojects such as the Pacific Airport in La Union or the new National Stadium, which is already under construction. In May 2024, the approved reduction from 262 municipalities to 44 is set to take effect, a measure that, according to the government, will save $250 million per year. Critics, however, see it as an attempt to concentrate more power in the central government. Additionally, the next legislature will be the first with 60 deputies instead of 84, a reduction that opponents also view as a tactic by Bukele to maintain greater control. Part of the prison population, those with better behavior, is already being used for refurbishment and improvement work outside the prisons, showcasing a model of recovery with order, control, and discipline. Under the slogan, Hach Plan Cero Ocio, they are demonstrating how they are contributing to society's repairs while striving to rehabilitate individuals who had engaged in criminal activities in the past. Bukele must address growing problems such as the high cost of living, lack of clean water, food crises, and other economic, social, and environmental issues affecting the people. Certainly, much is still lacking, but Bukele, as a leader in Latin America, leaves 2 strong lessons. The first is a true paradox because he restored real freedom to his population through legal restriction. His lesson in terms of security and combating crime is undeniable. The other lesson is how to close a violent chapter in his country's history through a justice system that issues speedy sentences and justifies effective punishments. Other countries in Latin America did not know how to heal the wounds of internal struggles, including state terrorism, executions without trials, and disappearances. Instead, they opted for pardons, release of prisoners, and making deals with those responsible for an illegal past, allowing them to become part of future governments, hiding the true history, or romanticizing their past struggles. President Bukele, who did not belong to his country's armed struggle, gave a lesson in pacification that undoubtedly places him in the pages of history. This is Nayib Bukele, one of the most influential Latin American presidents, who, along with figures like the Argentine Javier Milei, is projecting a leadership style that breaks with traditional forms of politics, prioritizing direct communication through social media and imposing new management paradigms that challenge old politics. Showing an effectiveness, Bukele in security and Milei in economics, that everyone is watching closely for reference. Will Bukele be able to improve the quality of life for Salvadorans and propel them towards growth and development in his second term? Will Latin America take his example in security?